I'm going to share with you our bulletproof prospecting system. If you open up the workbook to the pyramid, this is like a basic outline of the things that we have done at Gunpowder Business for the last 10 years that are tried and true. And where I actually started doing this was at City TV. When I was a sales rep, I actually hired my own executive assistant. Because what I noticed about the television business is that I was spending most of my time pushing paper along. Because once I landed a client, I had to book inventory, I had to get a commercial developed, and it was a lot of paper pushing and tracking down resources for a new client. And one of my mentors one day pushed me and said, why don't you get yourself an executive assistant? So I was a sales rep, single mother at the time. But you know, I trusted my mentor. And I spent the $15 an hour, and I hired my first executive assistant when I was a sales rep at City TV. And I taught her not only to push my paperwork, but I also taught her how to do my cold calling for me. And you just don't put them on the phone.
She's not being paid by City, you're paying her, but
I'm paying her. I bought her a laptop. It was $5,000. You know, the internet guys hooked up a switch for me. The sales reps got so jealous I had to move us home. I couldn't stay in the office with her anymore. Right? But it doubled my business. I earned double the amount of revenue because we earned 10% on new business. So I had that. It was because they paid 10% on new business, but it made sense to me that if I spent $15 an hour, I was going to make more money. And it worked. So then fast forward, a couple of projects later, I'm hired as the U.S. sales manager for a loyalty company. And I'm handed my largest quota ever. My quota was 202 new accounts in 1 year, and they were accounts, tier 1 online accounts, like Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, FTD, Flowers.com, Neiman Marcus, Saks Fifth Avenue. Think of a big brand online. It was on my target list. Okay? Just think about the numbers. If your closing ratio is 4 and 1, how many people do you have to meet to sign 202 contracts? Right? So they hired me as a U.S. sales manager. They gave me this big quota. I had a big bonus tied to this big quota. So I was going to figure out a way to do this. They also assigned a $10,000 travel budget a month and an executive assistant by the name of Marie. Right? And I didn't have any other staff. I just had Marie. So what was Marie going to do? So I was looking at her and I'm thinking, I'm going to teach Marie how to do my cold calls for me. And this is very powerful if you own your own business, because this is the next step, right, in your evolution, right, is when you can offset work to other people, okay, to help double and triple your revenues. Now, to help Marie, Marie was an executive assistant. She was a traditional executive assistant. She wasn't hired to make phone calls, okay? She was not happy with me at first. All right? But I set her up for success. And these are the elements that you need to set someone up for success. And one is that you have to start thinking like your target. Okay? I actually sat in the seat and put on my CMO hat, Chief Marketing Officer of Amazon. What's important to them and how do they buy? And if you don't know, go and ask them. Okay? Go find people who know them and ask. How do they buy? Because you want to tie back the value that you have to offer back to that. So that's step one. You've got to understand your value. And when we work with a new client, we'll do interviews. We'll interview the people that made the software. We'll interview people that sell the software. We'll interview the clients that they have. Because those interviews will tell you things that you never even thought of. I had a client, Ted Madden. We booked, 10 to 12 universities in the U.S. marketplace for him for 2 years. He's quoted in one of the pages in the front of the workbook here. He turned to me one day and he says, Christine, I know you help me determine whether I have a good salesperson, because right off the gate they're going to 9 meetings in that first month. And if they can't convert those 9 meetings into proposals, guess what? I got it done. Right? So that was a benefit that my service that I didn't know about, because I asked my client. I did some interviews. Okay, so ask some great questions and interview these clients in person. And then if you go to my website, you'll see that I put some of those interviews on my website because they're great testimonials and great collateral pieces to help leverage your brand. If you're a small guy and you've got 1 or 2 good clients, leverage the brand of the good work that you've done for others. When I was was at DWL, I didn't talk about DWL. I talked about the great work we did for Body Shop International and Sun Life Insurance. Because those were the companies that stood out. They didn't care about DWL. They cared about the work we did for those bigger companies that were like them. Okay? So, I developed a voicemail for Marie. Why do I develop a voicemail? Because nobody rejects you on voicemail, right? Is Marie feeling a little of this? For sure she is, right? For sure she is. I don't want her to feel rejection, right? So I develop a great voicemail, and I have her practice with me. Practice, 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 practice. Until she sounds awesome, right? Until she can fake enthusiasm, right? Because sales is an exchange of enthusiasm, right? The next thing I did was I armed her with a fantastic email. And some of my emails are quite lengthy. Remember I asked the logical people if they read the entire email? They do. Some don't. You know, if you're sending it to an action-oriented person, you know, they might... I often start with a client quote at the top for those action-oriented people, right? Because it establishes credibility right away. And then, you know, hook them in a little bit longer. But more importantly, there's a lot of techniques that I share in the book, but it's build a great email. Okay, so now, Marie, all she has to do is leave a voicemail. She was okay at finding people. She had no problem finding the assistants and talking to other assistants. She had affinity with other assistants. She was an assistant, right? So there was a reciprocity that happened with assistants, right? When you present yourself as your executive assistant, they help you, right? And that's a powerful word. I need help. Can you help direct me to the right person involved, right? So she's got a great voicemail. She knows how to find decision makers. She gets their email address. There's no risk yet, right? All she has to do is send that email. She's left a voicemail, send that email. Now, is that a cold call anymore? No. They know why you're calling. They know the good work that you've done for others because you've told them, right? A good voicemail. What are some of the key components of a great voicemail? Anybody?
Short.
Not necessarily.